Hey everybody, this is Petey from the Spin Rack, and today I decided to do something different. I think I've shown you some of my artist editions, but today I'm gonna do the story that kind of hurt my heart. I'm not gonna do this. Well, I don't know how to do this, but I'm gonna try to go through this thing. It has the first 4 issues, and I think the last 3 issues of the Satyr Saga, and basically, Walter Simon is one of the few that kept all of his original artwork. So we get this gorgeous edition. Now, my original plan was when I had some money, I would buy this. And I think the Dave Stevens Rocketeer came out first, and that got sold out in 2 seconds. So that has led me to be very trigger happy when it comes to artist editions, to make sure I buy them. I recently did it with the Jim Lee thing, but I messed up on the Sal Buscema recent one where I should have bought the special edition from the Comic Con. So that one, I'll probably have to wait for a second thing, but at the same time, who cares if you have to buy a second edition? It's the same stuff, right? Your resale value is the hard part, but who cares? You're looking for the art, right? So he decided to retain pretty much most of his own art. So here's all the issues that are in here. The first 4, the first 2 heartbreaking issues, the Rocky 3 issue, which is what I call that one, where Beta Ray Bill and Thor become the Rocky and Apollo Creed, where they kind of work together. And then they have issue 4 is when I was all 3 and 4. That's when I'm all in. And then it has the I thought it was a Satyr Saga, but I'm wrong. This is actually the Hell Saga, right? Now, bits of, I don't think any of the, I guess Satyr, bits of this story is used for Ragnarok, but it's been kind of gutted. So I kind of want to really go into this. So this would be how I met Beta Ray Bill. And I met him on Utica Avenue in Church, across the street from the comic book store, the toy and comic book store that was out there near the rugby theater. There was a newsstand. Because I couldn't read at the comic store, I would go to the newsstand and read. Now, Thor was a book that I'd seen some cool Kirby comics. I'd seen him in the, what's that thing? I seen him in the Origin of Marvel comic books, a couple of Kirby issues. I think my brother had the Origin of Thor, where we get the true history, quote unquote, true history of Thor. And the recent issues of Thor was kind of a guy like a caveman. He wasn't that great a fighter, he wasn't the strongest person, but at the same time, in the old books, he seemed like Marvel's Superman, right? So this Thor usually gets a fight and loses. And clearly from this cover, he's going to lose this fight. So this is how I met Beta Ray Bill, and I was really worried. I was really worried about the villains in Spider-Man comics, and it was really about how bad Thor was going to get beat up. So we introduced this, and I think despite possibly thinking this art was good or bad, I wouldn't even notice that it was good because I was really worried about Thor. So that colored my look, but look at how we start here, right? We have this subplot, like many Marvel subplots. Now, a lot of people will give Jim Shooter the credit for putting Walter Simonson on Thor. Obviously, he had to sign off of it, but Mark Grunwald is the guy who put Walter Simonson on Thor. Shooter had written some of these issues right before they say that Thor was possibly going to be canceled. So the Marvel approach or the Shooter approach wasn't like, hey, let's find somebody to do it. It was more Mark Grunwald saying, hey, I know you like Thor, just do whatever you want with it. you know. And then I think they had a list of things he could possibly do, and one of the things said replacing Thor, and he said, well, he didn't really want to replace Thor, but it could be good for a story. And that's something I think Shooter was talking about, hey, replacing the characters. So that wasn't Simonson's plan, but it's saying this could make a good story, right? And then, and it's clearly the idea that Thor, where he's writing that Thor is in Don Blake's body, right? But something, these kids playing around lead him to being taken in, and Kane's like, oh man, as a kid, once again, it's taken from him, but it's actually Nick Fury, right? And then he, of course, knows who Thor is, and then he does it in the car. He said, you didn't warn me about the special effects. And then Thor says, thou did not ask. Now, at the same time, as a kid, I was just worried about Thor getting beat up again, because I think he got beat up by some sort of crusader who was of religious faith, and his faith was stronger. It was the wackiest story ever. But we got all this cool stuff, and as a kid, I don't care. I didn't care at all. All I was worried about Thor getting beat up. And we get like Sitwell, all this classic stuff, and all this nice sort of giving this ominous tone that something's gonna happen, and there's a ship that's coming out of here, right? So yeah, I mean, you can imagine as a kid, I'm all about art, and at the same time, all I cared about was worrying about Thor. And another favorite of mine was Balder, right? Now Balder was a guy who was Thor's best friend, nursing a crush on Thor's woman, Sif. Classic, something that triangle that doesn't get played anymore. It's almost sacrilegious to have your best friend in love with your girlfriend, but it's a true thing that can happen, right? And then Sif sees Heimdall, and he's like, struggling with Thor, forsaking him for Midgard, as he's done many a time, but he's just a protector of her, right? Right, so then Thor's another cool shot, but it's like, well, I'm still not confident in what's going on here, because it looks good. It looks really gorgeous, but I'm the kid in the newsstand, just upset, right? And it's like, oh, here's where it starts, right? Thor goes in there, and then we get a Loki scene. Right, so I think we're going to get to a part that I actually did like. Right, well, we're 8 minutes in. All right, so let's keep going. And we meet Lorelei. Right, she's captured this, and then I fell completely for her immediately. So I was like, oh, this is a good part. But Thor gets not his hat handed to him, but he gets tossed. I said, oh, here it comes. So I'm totally disregarding the art. I'm just looking at this and saying, ugh, another beat down. Right? Some guy, just whoever this guy, Simonson guy is, he don't understand him. He's got this, look at this. And look, the hammer's on the side, right? And they see the ship also is one of the early, similar to, I think, a ship that talks, but it's probably something that sci-fi that's always been. But in comics, you don't see it that much, right? And of course, Thor is starting to gain some ground, but as usual, his hammer takes him out of the fight. And then, no, not like this. You do nothing, demon. So then they also bothered that this character was calling Thor a demon, right? But that is another red herring that I totally missed. And then, of course, the stasis have saved Thor at the same time. When the thing crashes, was one of the last times someone would care about a crash landing. Nobody cares about a crash landing, that it would kill you if you're into that. But I think they crash land on Earth. They make it to Earth. Nick Fury is there, trying to figure out what's going on. He's trying to find the hammer and say, oh no. And this is even tougher as a kid, because when having him tap it instead of lifting it, this is the important thing. Walter Simonson didn't have someone else lift the hammer. He kept the hammer and enchantment and kept the mystique of Thor. The difference of having someone like the Hulk or Captain America, it kills the impact of Thor having this hammer and being the only one that can lift it. Having this person, even though I was hurt when I saw this, and I was like, this is terrible. And then look at this. He's using the hammer, and I think the cartoon did something like this too, where Thor gets beat up and he gets the hammer taken, and it's just like, not done well. Not done like this. It took me a while to get to that part where I was cool with it, right? And then, of course, Beta Ray Bill is like, I'm going to take everything out. Then Odin comes and takes Thor away. But then we have Don Blake, and totally devoid of Don Blake's personality. All right, and what an ending. And I was like, even though it said all this at the bottom, I was like, there's no coming back. That's it. This is the end. Listen, I went to the newsstand. I saw this issue, right? I can't read it because I wasn't going to buy this. Are you kidding? I'm not buying this. So we had the subplot of the Doom. Why should I reveal it? We'll find it out later. And Thor's talking to him, and he's out. Can't connect with his father. And then Nick Fury said, it'll eventually work out. He was out looking for Thor, and he's going to get the big surprise, right? So the Asgardians, Thor is there, and he doesn't know. Well, Beta Ray Bill is there, and he doesn't know why he's here. And so back with these demons. And then, of course, he said, where's my son? This is my answer. If you're truly the leader of this demon, then it's you who must be slain to save my people. And it's like, what is he talking about? Right? This is the mighty weapon I won in combat and shall do the deed. And it was like, perhaps and perhaps not. Come, Mjolnir. This is no ordinary demon. So, and when Odin comes, it leads a storm, which is pretty cool. And this is a great interaction between Odin and... So I'm kind of warming up to it, depending on how this fight goes. But they have this great interaction, great poetic sort of talking, not exactly like Stan Lee's version of it, but keeping some of it in there. Some it's Arthurian type of dialogue, but at the same time keeping it loose and fun, right? So then they have a talk, right? They're talking about this. So I'm like, no, this guy is not cool. So like most Simonson women, they're all stacked to high heaven, right? And Sif is no different. So Sif is before J-Lo. Simonson women were stacked like this way back when, right? So we see Thor. We know this isn't Thor. With Lorelai, who's fallen for pretty hard, and Sif is upset. This would lead to some major subplots as it goes along, all right? And this gag on Sif, and Loki's like is now kind of re-energized, right? So they had this trouble in the galaxy, and they build the greatest warrior, right? And they go out, and he's out trying to fight all these demons, and now there's struggle, but now he has this weapon. He won in combat. And Thor says, "What? I say thee nay, noble warrior. It is not Thor thou defeated, but my mortal shell." And then Odin says he has a point. Hey, look at the thing I put on this. It's my fault. I left this in there. Left it open. Someone else. And we're not getting that Beta Ray Bill is worthy. We're like, he stole it. He got the hammer while he was human, right? So they need to figure something out, right? So they decided to do it in single combat. But Beta Ray Bill is back to where he was, and they're gonna go off and fight to the death. Scarthium, right? And this, Scarthium, where even gods may perish. My father surely entrusted our fate with the norms themselves, the three fates. And of course, and this is the comic book, it's not strange for them to talk while fighting. Have fun with it, right? It's because it's great dialogue, right? And you see, it's not looking good for Thor already, right? So Balder is now taking his time with Volstagg eating himself to death, where at the same time Volstagg is like, you need to eat for fun. And they run into Agnar, who's ready to challenge Balder in combat, right? Because he is the Balder the Brave, right? And then of course, instead of fighting Balder, Balder stays out of it. Volstagg, now, Simonson took a different tone, where there's less fear early on in Volstagg. He's just sort of a funny character. He has some great moments. But at the same time, as the series goes on, that fear that Volstagg has and the bluster kind of comes out. So Thor, they're truly respecting each other as warriors. They battle it out. And once again, Walter Simonson is doing his best to respect Thor in a battle that he knows he's going to lose. But I'm like, oh, this is not going well. Look at this, right? Thor needs to win this battle, right? And they're about to go over this, they're about to fall to their death. But the heat revived them. This is a key point in the story. And he said, the finest warrior I've ever fought, but the hammer is mine. And I was like, that's it. He did it. Simonson has ruined Thor forever, for the eons. And then this post-fight said, oh no, from the cover it's like, oh no, this guy, they changed Thor's hammer to make it more for him. This opens up something old, something new. And Beta Ray Bill falls out. So he's only awake for a second to help save Thor and get back, right? So just like a boxing match, the fighters usually go to the hospital, and this is no different, right? So here is the point where I was like, I found a thread in the Simonson, this story, where I could latch on to, right? But at the same time, in the comic store, I think my friend Dixon, he had bought these issues. I just read them 3 million times. I read both of those issues 3 million times in the newsstand. And then I come in, and I think Dixon, I think he got his job because he had the issue of that, the Thor 337, and he got the job at the comic store. And as a big comic guy, and it's like, oh no, the guy who has a collection and big if not bigger and in better condition also has now a job in it. I was the comic guy in the town, right? But yeah, it was but he got the job there, and it was just like, wow, I read this book 3 million times, cursing it complaining, and I go back and read it again and again and again. And this was the first one I bought, right? I bought this one. And then next thing you know, go into the store and see it's $10, the first issue Simonson did, right? So the Asgardian is intrigued by Beta Ray Bill, but Lorelei is more interested in Thor, right? So Odin goes to Thor, and Thor is disgraced, and then he has the idea that he's going to journey in the stars. Now, I've seen Thor go through the stars, so I was like, you know what? He should just give up the hammer altogether. You don't have to worry about that. He can have his adventures in space. That would be fun. You don't have to worry about the 60-second change of the hammer and this. So then Odin goes to Beta Ray Bill and he's like, hey, I want it. I need the hammer. But at the same time, it's Thor's. I don't have the right to take the hammer, right? So then Odin is deciding he deserves a gift. But to make the hammer, he has to go to the dwarves. And the dwarves need some help. So that everything is done with a deal in this Asgardian terms, right? So the idea is that they would take care of this huge dwarf that they need to take out, and then the hammer will be made, right? So Bill, and this is the Rocky and Apollo Creed moment where the hero has lost, but they become friends, and they start talking, and he says the Scarthium is a place of heat, and that is what revived me from the fight, and you are an Asgardian, you are closer to the cold, the frost, like the people of cold. And then he says, you think so, Bill? My father is subtle and is hidden, perhaps. And he realizes that Odin has constantly done this stuff to him, right? So some sort of cosmic thing against him. He said, in no other realm could I have won so close a contest. And even so, I had the luck. And then they see Sif going out, and Sif is going to a thing where she may not return, battling for the both of them, right? But they can't do anything. They're finished. And then a quick flashback when she says she needs this. And she goes out there, she fights this horrible troll, and then we go back to Volstagg, and he tells the history of Baldr, right? That he was impenetrable, but Loki cheated, and of course used mistletoe to kill Baldr, and Baldr went to hell and seen all these atrocities, and when he returned to Asgard, he was a broken man. Then we get our Doom subplot, where we see these weird looking creatures and that Krun creature, Doom stuff going on, and then we have another subplot happen, right? And then we go back to the trolls. Sif is handling her business, and she wins, right? So the point of this was that they were happy that this evil troll would be defeated by a woman, so he could be not, they could hold that over him, right? So they decide they're going to make this thing for them. And then Sif talks to Bill. She's been struggling with Thor, so she sees a warrior that she decides that she's going to try to flirt with, but he pulls away. And it's another moment, tough moment for Sif, where she just helped this guy, and he's not ready for any sort of companionship. So, I think in the movie, was it Infinity War, they kind of played this up, but they did a giant troll type of thing. And Odin puts the enchantment into this thing, We see the whole idea like Thor wearing like iron gloves to lift the hammer. Beta Rebuild does the same. And he says the enchantment is more mine. This was the ad that sold the story. And he's going to go off, but Thor decides to go with him. And they go as brothers, both this, and this is kind of DC having someone with a similar hammer, but it's just fun, right? And Thor takes back his hammer, and this possibly is older than the idea of Odin, the cosmic scheme of thing, is what Odin planned it in general. Like he would lose somehow, knowing that these two would need to be together to take out this thing, right? But Sif decides she's earned the right to come, and this is the moment where Thor starts to you start to see Simonson bring out Thor's personality more and more. You saw it early in the first issue. This sealed the deal, right? He's not ready for Sif to join her, and he says, "So be it," as they say. All right, and then we get to see Thor's goats, right? Because Thor usually flies out in space, but now he's using his cosmic goats and his chariot, and I was just like, wow, that's cool. And the goats haven't appeared in the movies, but they should, right? And this cover I loved, right? So everyone wants us to do the next story, but this is the one that really brought me in, right? And seeing how the people that are in cold sleep already getting attacked, some of them have died, and Sif is going out there, and Beta Ray Bill has a little bit of chauvinism, and it's like, Lady Sif, and she's right on. And Thor then has his moment, and she tells him to ride on. And then, that's the name, Beta Ray Bill, we can't leave her. She is right. He says, only you and I might win against the horde of demons on their ground. So he had to leave Sif to fend for herself. And the demons are so large, they almost look like a water spout, right? And they're being created. This is where the demons are being created, right? And I'll show you how tough they are. We go back to the Doom. This is all connected. We didn't know that it was connected, but it is. And Sif is now getting another tidal wave of demons. And then we got the Sigourney Weaver moment. Almost like she's a real person. It was so dramatic. And then you see, hey, that's Bill Ship Scuttlebutt, the other character in this thing, right? And she's there to help Sif, and they go on and lead the demons out there, right? So Volstagg has been sitting on this character for the longest time, and hence all of the struggles that Balder went through. And so he admit he had many victories in there, but it left him broken. Right? And then he meet Hogan, right? Hogan was never young. He would never forget, never forgive. Right? And they take their last moment, they destroy the thing that's creating the monsters, and the demons start disappearing. And Sif, everyone, and finds out that Bill and Thor are still alive. Right? And this is the last bit of respect Loki ever gave to Thor. It's Lorelei is, I said Locali. Lorelei is wanting to seduce Thor, but it's like not any ordinary bumpkin. And he's going to help him because it amuses him. So they go back to Asgardian welcome. He wants to stay on Asgard, but he can't. And then we find out that it's not true, his story. He didn't tell the whole story. That there was a contest to find the greatest warrior, and then they rebuilt him in the warrior that they had to sort of fight. And the change was necessary. So that hinted, of course, Sif knows something about Thor. He does a change, right? And strike his hammer on the ground, and Bill becomes himself again, right? And he said, "You earned the right." And then Thor, with his humor, "What say you, Bill, to a joust now?" And then he realizes Don Blake is gone, right? And then Thor says his goodbye, and she realizes it wasn't true what she had seen, but she's stacked to high heaven. How can you don't let her go? And they go off, right? And Thor says, "What about another battle that's between them to decide what's going on?" But then we get to see this dragon. I think it's Farnir. That he comes back, right? So I did 30 minutes on this.